could be bigger than tourism.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is the mining industry in Egypt, Egypt's got the second oldest oil and gas industry in the world after the United States. Shell has been here for 140 years. The fact of the matter is that a lot of these fields are becoming very old. You need secondary and tertiary recoveries to increase their production. Gas, excellent. Oil, not so much. They're going to open up the Red Sea for the first time to exploration, deep water exploration. I think that's great. They're taking all the steps necessary to develop the oil and gas business, and from where it is. And that's wonderful. It's a great place to be an operator. I mean, if I was going to be an operator, I'd certainly come to Egypt. But, it's a low-cost place to explore. But the fact of the matter is that it's a declining business. And mining is you have everything to play for. And it's got the potential for the next several hundred years to become the next cornerstone of the Egyptian economy.
Well, and
why wouldn't you take it?
And a fuel for the region, right? To have a country that can really mobilize a pretty aggressive build out of a mining industry could have all kinds of surprising, development benefits for other countries in the area.
Sure, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. But I mean, the thing you have to remember about Egypt, people talk about Egypt. The problem is over the last 70 years, Egypt has been in decline.
Yeah.
But let's not forget that, Egypt was the backbone of the cotton industry in the world. Egypt in 1940 had the fifth largest stock market in the world. Egypt, the Egyptian pound was stronger than the British pound back in the day. It was Nasser. If you want to look at, it's just the same as Cuba and Castro. If you want to look at where we are today, you can absolutely, without question, lay that at the feet of Gamal Abdel Nasser. I don't say anything to you that I wouldn't say in public.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate it. It's one thing that I've learned from you there, to be pretty frank about the situation as it may be.
I come from Texas. I ain't backward and coming forward. And, the fact of the matter is that, my shareholders want honesty. They're my partners. They're who pay my paycheck. They're who I work for. They don't want to be snowed. They don't want me to tell them something is good when, that something is crap. They want to know. I mean, people will follow you through thick and thin, if you're honest with them. They appreciate if you invest in a business like this and, there's a risk. They appreciate the risk. What they don't want you to do is sit around there and, snow them with some idea that, oh, there's no risk at all, blah, blah, blah. We're going to make $1 billion tomorrow.
Yep.
At the end of the day, I'm not going to do it. It's not me. I'm not going to try and take, money from a housewife in Yellowknife just for I need that dollar and I'm going to lie to you. I'd rather not be in business than that.
Yeah. Well, and
that's not where I come from. I come from a small town in Texas. I worked my way up as a driller. I've had businesses. At the end of the day, is that I have to perform. As a contractor, or I don't get the work. I can't bullshit them all the time. So, I've got to perform for the people who pay me to perform.
Yeah.
And I can't guarantee them anything. All I can do is be honest with them with what we have and what's going on. but I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell them what's going to happen tomorrow. It's not that type of business. It's a risk business. They're giving me their money, and all I can do is employ the best people I could find to do that job, hopefully be in the right type of geology, and have the economics that allows them to make money. At the end of the day, my job is to make my customers wealthy. I'm not investors wealthy. I'm not selling, as I said, baby food or auto parts. I'm selling the chance of you making a hell of a lot of money. That's my job. A screwy business, but it's a business. All I can do is be honest with them with what we have and what's going on. But I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell them what's going to happen tomorrow. It's not that type of business. It's a risk business. They're giving me their money, and all I can do is employ the best people I could find to do that job, hopefully be in the right type of geology, and have the economics that allows them to make money. At the end of the day, my job is to make my customers wealthy. I'm not investors wealthy. I'm not selling, as I said, baby food or auto parts. I'm selling the chance of you making a hell of a lot of money. That's my job. A screwy business, but it's a business.
There's one executive I've heard recently speak about how he thinks of the fact that with gold, you'll be able to sell it, but you don't know what price you'll get for it in local currency or US dollars, whatever it might be.
You could say that about the oil business.
Yeah.
That's any commodity business.
Well, and certainly a basic principle, right? And I wonder about with the changes in the Egyptian mining policy there, I wonder if they're going to move towards something conventional or if there's the potential for some experimentation with some really wild stuff. Like I wonder about if the executives think of the commodity business in terms of the cost of the inputs in gold terms or whatever it might be, the tax should be in there too. And I wonder about a physical tax, just, like really simplifying things down to some fraction of metal produced.
Knowing Tarko Mullah, the minister, I think that he will go for simple. I think that he will. Now, I say that with the caveat of knowing the challenges he faces with this sort of nationalistic view. So you may see this thing come in stages. You may see this thing, and you may have to read between the lines. And one of the jobs that I have to do is actually interpret, what. But do I think that they're going to do something that is going to create an environment that is not attractive? No, I don't. I think they will. It may not be as attractive as everybody'd like, but I mean, that's the way. It's like settling all of my cases with my 4 ex-wives. I mean, it's never as attractive as you'd like it to be, but the fact of the matter is that they're moving in the right direction.
Well,
and that
again,
I think has to be seen
yeah,
as being the overall. Do I think? If you ask me, and I have no, and I'm not going to say that I know this because I don't know this, but if you ask me what I thought, I don't know what they'll charge in rent. It's going to be somewhere around $100, dollars a square kilometer, I suspect. That'll be in the executive regulations. But if you ask me what I think they'll do for a royalty, I think it'll be 5% for precious and base metals. I think they'll put it up out of the sky for quarrying, but that's a whole different issue. But for our business, I think it'll be 5%. I think there'll be a social tax and I reckon that'll be 1%. So you look at it 6%. If that's what it is, brother, I can live with that any day of the week and twice on Sundays. It may be aggressive, but it doesn't kill my economics.
No. Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine it. Yep.
So, I don't know. As I said, I left my crystal ball in my other coat, but I mean, at the end of the day, that's what I think you'll see.
And earlier this year, there was some rumblings about a sovereign wealth fund in Egypt, and I wonder
I haven't heard any more about it.
Neither have I. There wasn't much mention of it online. Details always sparse. Follow through is a question mark. But I wonder if the potential for growth in the gold mining industry could tie in with that in some way. Even if a small wealth fund that had some portion of the taxes and from the mining industry. I've speculated myself about
No, I think the
potential impact
taxes will go to. No, the important thing is that taxes go to. I mean, we have a 22.5% top line corporate tax. So, if you want to look at it straight through, forgetting about rent because nobody's talked about that. But if you want to talk about straight through, you're talking about 22.5% income tax. You're talking about 5% royalty, and you're talking about a 1% social tax. There you go. That's your tax regime.
Well, and I hope that some of whatever the government collects from gold mines specifically, I wonder about them holding some of that in gold on central bank balance sheets or something, or a sovereign wealth fund of some kind. There's been a slight uptick in the tonnage of gold held by the Egyptian central bank earlier this year, but small amount, but it was an increase, and one of the first reported increases, I think, in a long time.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't care what they do with their money. At the end of the day, all I care about it what it costs me.
Yep.
They can use their money to build Disney World, Egypt. At the end of the day, is that whether they take in a sovereign wealth fund or they hold gold or whatever they want to do with their money is up to them. It's like when my kids got their first jobs. I mean, I couldn't tell them what to do with their money. That was up to them. If they wanted to waste it on beer, that was up to them. If they wanted to invest it in, Microsoft, that was up to them. I mean, at the end of the day, is that, my only interest is in what affects us.
Yeah.
And how did that allow us to operate? What Egypt does with its money is up to Egypt.
And and thinking about what you can do, there's a few irons in the fire. Plate is full with work to do at Rod Ruin, I'm sure, on an ongoing basis for years to come. I wonder about, some kind of strategic partnership, bringing somebody else.
Sure. I mean, I will talk to anybody.
Yeah.
As you know, 3 years ago, we gave us an offer which was so derisory for our shareholders that, we told them to take a hike. Here's what I'll tell you right now. In the near term, the only deal I'll be willing to do is a project deal.
Yeah,
Somebody wants to farm into a project, I'll do it. A corporate deal? Not a chance, because I'm not going to have somebody come in here and scam my shareholders on some sort of, lowball sort of deal because they think I'm desperate to do it. So, if they want, I'd save their breath and the nickel they're going to pay on the telephone call.
Well, and the potential for project finance and creative solutions there. Again, we mentioned the EBRD earlier.
Will heighten as the economic environment becomes good, the opportunity for project finance increases.
Yeah.
And that, of course, also increases depending on the size of the deal you want to finance.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder how many groups there are out there that are looking to finance exploration. I would think that somebody who might, if you were to carve out some of the target areas at the Abu Marawat concession, you could do projects on, blocks of area that, just at
Sure.
that are still at the early exploration stage.
Sure. Absolutely.
It's
and
a
that's the way
Disneyland, as you
I
say.
look at it. I mean,
amazing.
I don't look at it as giving away the ranch at a cheap price.
And in the past, you've mentioned how the exploration team can keep going in some ways under some circumstances, even after kind of a discovery is made.
Well, we're an exploration company. Okay, it's as simple as that. I mean, if we have to turn ourselves into a mining company, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But the reality is that if you ask me, I would like to see us stay as an exploration company. There's a lot of opportunity in Egypt moving forward. If I could sell off individual prospects and take that money and turn them into exploration dollars to go and work on other areas within, Egypt, be it in the Eastern Desert or in Sinai, that would be my preference.
Yeah. Within Aton Resources.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful, right? Having to drop Fatiri there a few years ago, I think people might have thought,
well, that was no great loss. I mean, people talk about dropping Fatiri. I mean, it's 1,500 square kilometers of moose pasture. There was one target that was of any interest, and that was Ruha Hadid. If I could get back some portion of that, I'd probably try and pick up that one little area of Ruha Hadid. The rest of it you could have. If I was, Newmont and I had all the money in the world, then maybe I'd go and try and do it. One of the problems, we have security issues, so nobody's going to be allowed to fly airborne surveys over it. Not at the moment. Maybe that'll change, but at the moment, that was never going to be the case. So you'd have to do it by field geology, and I'd have to have, the 2nd Battalion of the 10th Regiment out there looking after it. So, I mean, it's just nonsensical.
Yeah.
This is the oil and gas mentality that we're going to award you these huge blocks. Now, at the end of the day, I'm very happy with the fact that I've got 738 square kilometers. But the reality is that I'll have to cut that down, and that's what I'm doing at the moment, is trying to focus in on those areas that we know about, as opposed to try and run around in other areas where I don't know. Maybe there's some wonderful stuff to the east of us or whatever it is, and the eastern portion, well, fine, somebody else will find it. I got enough right now to last me, a lifetime. Let's not forget, is at the end of the day, I am trying to position us for the future and what have you. I am not on an upward career path, okay? This is my last job. At some point, I'd like to retire. The only reason I can't retire is because I got too many ex-wives and too many bartenders that I have to look after. But, at some point, I'd actually like to retire and, and let somebody else move on and move this forward. I just want to create the platform that allows for that.
Yeah. Well, and some people say an exploration company has a lifespan, right? And it may be more so that projects have lifespans. Either way.
People always have something that they like to say. At the end of the day, is that there is no exact model for all of this. You want to be something, be it. If you want to be an exploration company, then take your project, build them up, sell them on, take the money, go and explore somewhere else. You could be, you can be a huge deal generation job. Look at Resolute. Resolute tends to invest in other people, let them find stuff, and then they buy up the project. It's a great model.
Absolutely.
You want to be something, be it. If you want to be an exploration company, then take your project, build them up, sell them on, take the money, go and explore somewhere else. You could be, you can be a huge deal generation shop. Look at Resolute. Resolute tends to invest in other people, let them find stuff, and then they buy up the project. It's a great model.
Absolutely. And I've seen some research on copper markets recently saying that the cost of exploration, based on global exploration spending and global discoveries, something like 3 cents a pound copper, and the going rate in acquisitions is around that same price. So not a lot of incentive for people to be, there's some deep value out there in mining right now.
Absolutely. I think our exploration, our finding costs, overall over our history is about like a little over $8 an ounce.
Wow.
That's how cheap it is to operate in Egypt.
Including direct costs, field costs, no G&A
it all
in there.
costs $8 an ounce. A bit more, but,
including G&A and corporate?
Yeah, of course. Our G&A is low. I don't, and this is back when we had high G&A under the last management. Still, we would have, we'd probably have lower, finding costs.
Well, and that'll become clear at Rod Ruin as we move towards putting some firm numbers there.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Congratulations on drilling 50 holes or whatever it was there this year.
Well, they did a great job. I mean, as I said, I have the best exploration team in the world.
Yeah.
That's why I'm the lowest paid employee
at the company. That's right.
Well, that's because the money should go into the people that are at the sharp end. I'm only here to make sure that they do it.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I have no reason for existing. I mean, the fact of the matter is that, these are the guys that are going to build the value. My job is just keeping everything on the rails. There's one thing that is my biggest fear in the world. You know what that is? A geologist with a checkbook.
Yep. No, it's a classic.
So at the end of the day, my job is to make sure that, we stay on the rails. But they're great. I mean, they're absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
My exploration team. I mean, there's no adjective that I could conceivably think of that would, basically explain how great they are.
Yeah. Well, again, the footage from site that I've seen of the roads, the quality of the work that was done there, very high, and they seem to be very effective once they were onto that South Ridge there.
So you think about it, I mean, we have built a 5-kilometer now, because it runs down the other end, 5-kilometer road up the side of a very steep mountain.
Yeah.
And then we built drill pads and, everything else around it. So, if you just talk about on a civil engineering level without any civil engineers, I mean, we've done a great job.
Yeah, it's funny how often that gets taken for granted in the mining industry, exploration, no less.
No, I know. But I mean, it's, if we hadn't done it, we wouldn't be where we are today.
Well, that's exactly
so our
right.
Accomplishments in the last year, we went from making a discovery of this place that nobody had seen in 1,600 years to, built roads, drill pads, and actually drilled 4,100 meters in less than a year.
Yeah.
From
Well
my
done.
mind, that is pretty damn good going by anyone's standards.
Yep. I'd
And if
agree.
and I read your things where people are jumping around and talking about this, or it's gonna be, oh, they're gonna roll back the stock or what have you. But these are like a group of deranged bobby soxers, looking at Frankie coming out the thing. I mean, the fact of the matter is that if you look at, the cold light of day, what we've done,
Yeah.
where we're at, or you listen to, people say, well, they're gonna roll back the stock. We're not gonna roll back the stock. I mean, that's not my way. If we get to 50 cents, nobody's gonna be talking about dilution.
Yep. Well, and if you do project level deals, nobody's going to be talking about dilution either.
Exactly. So at the end of the day, that's my belief, is that you build value, and when you build value, you eliminate dilution. Rolling back the stock is, sort of a, Vancouver sleight of hand.
I wonder, marketing the company in Vancouver, there is the Roundup. It's kind of a Western Cordillera focused North American thing. Is there really a geological community for Aton yet?
No.
Yeah. Well, there's the opportunity to
I mean,
develop one, right?
Of course, this PDAC, Egypt is now considering coming en masse, including the minister, to PDAC. We at AmCham, the American Chamber of Commerce, and ourselves are thinking about having a booth there to promote Egypt. And obviously we come every year anyway, and we participate and we promote Egypt, but it's in our best interest. But it would be great if Egypt, in a more serious mode, in a sort of going forward, what can we do, to help you come mode, shows up. That would be absolutely fabulous. And, we, Tanny Stratix, Resolute, and obviously we'd be all over that like a cheap suit.
Yeah. And that's it. That's one of the global arenas, for these kinds of international discussions. I don't know that the EB. Yeah.
It's the biggest.
So, and for 2019, Rod Ruin.
No, not Rod Ruin. First of all, you can't actually drill something like, you can't go in and say, I'm going to drill 20,000 meters tomorrow.
Yeah.
You have to step back. And that's pretty complex geology. And as I said to you, we change our model twice a day. We change our model like people change their underwear. The fact of the matter is that we need to have a look at the other stuff that we had. We're set up to drill Serbacus, Abu Gharish, very easy. Semna, Bohlog, West Garita. Yeah. I've got to do some more drilling at Hamama anyway to lift my resource from inferred to indicated. So I've got plenty of other drilling to do, and the drilling contractor needs to know that he's got consistent work for his rig. So, it's a win-win situation. We need to drill this stuff. Capital wants us to drill it. We've got 20,000 meters. I probably got another 20,000 meters on top of that.
Yeah. Well, and that's, again, the conversation about project finance too, and somebody who may want to come in on funding exploration stage work. We often hear project finance at the debt stage, but we've seen this year
I think that if all this, but honestly, if everything changes, we're the first mover. We're the most advanced.
Yep.
You know, if somebody wants to come in and partner with us, farm into projects, you know, we're going to be, you know, and this is just by default. We're the first people that anybody's going to come and talk to.
Yep. That's right.
Simple as that.
And I wonder about, you know, Sandstorm and Nolan Watson there. Really great leadership, I think, in the Vancouver junior mining world. I think they do us a service of good credit on the global stage.
Sure. I couldn't agree more. But I think, you know, Nolan has a, you know, business to do. And, you know, that may change from time to time. That doesn't mean that he doesn't believe in us. It just means that he has to manage his business such a way. I mean, I haven't talked to him about, you know, does he want some more of us? But, you know, when the time comes, of course I will. But when the time comes, you know, he may have other stuff that he needs to get on with. I can't, you know, I don't, you know, sort of think in terms of I have to be dependent on any one person, and I don't want any one person to think that I'm dependent upon them. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, and it's about survival in a company with no revenue.
But as I said to you, this is my last interview for the year, and I wanted to be with you because you've done so much for us, and I can't tell you how much we all appreciate you.
Thank you. It's felt over
now,
here.
You've done a great job, and I'll tell you what, your knowledge level over the last several years has skyrocketed, and I take my hat off to you. You now know more about geology than I do, and I have a degree in geology, so that's pretty impressive.
Well, and it's
although, you know, I never worked as a geologist. I put myself through school working as a drilling hand, and I graduated from college, and I couldn't get a job as a geologist at the time, so I stayed in the drilling business. So I'm actually a qualified drilling engineer, but I have a degree. So there you go. I might as well have, you know, studied. I don't know what I studied today. You know, mass communications or you know, gender studies or whatever. But anyway, there you go.
It's so much to say. So always so much more, Mark. A pleasure.
Don't worry. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas and a wonderful New Year.